All right, let's get right into our deep dive on women in international security. Now, if you're studying for your exam, this session is laser focused on giving you the core concepts and examples you absolutely have to know. So, let's do this. So let's start with the big question, the one you'll probably see in some form on your test. Why is it that policies designed to be gender neutral often have wildly unequal results for men and women? Just keep that question in the back of your mind, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to answer it. And to get to that answer, we have to start with the foundational concept here, the gendered approach. This is the essential tool that will completely change how you look at international politics. So what exactly is a gendered approach? Well, think of it as a powerful analytical tool. It's not just about women. It's about seeing how the socially constructed roles we assign to everyone end up shaping policy, development, and security. This definition, it's fundamental. Make sure you've got this one down cold for your exam.
The key thing to get here is that this lens does two really important things. First, it exposes the problems, the hidden inequalities that those gender-neutral policies can create. But just as important, it also shines a light on the solutions by revealing the vital and often totally overlooked contributions women make to building peace.
Okay, so let's move on to our first big application. We're going to take this gendered lens and apply it to globalization, which is one of the most powerful forces on the planet. This is where you really get to see the theory in action. You have to see globalization as a real double-edged sword for women. On one side, you've got amazing opportunities, like more economic participation in global markets. But on the other side, you have huge challenges, like the double burden, where women are often expected to work a paid job and then come home to do all the unpaid domestic work too. And this quote right here, it perfectly illustrates one of the biggest challenges, the way local identities can get lost. When Western models are just dropped into other cultures, they can completely erase traditional knowledge systems, where women often held a ton of power and expertise.
Now, if you need a perfect, concrete example for your exam, look at Zimbabwe. After 1980, they adopted these Western-style models, but it didn't create equality. Instead, it actually dismantled traditional structures, pushed women out of their influential roles, and in the end, helped create more instability.
Okay, now that we've seen this lens in action, let's unpack the theoretical toolkit you're going to need. There are three key feminist theories that give us different ways to analyze all these gender dynamics. Think of this table as your study guide. First, you've got liberal feminism, which is all about reforming the systems we already have. Then there's radical feminism, which says, nope, the system itself, patriarchy, is the problem and has to go. And finally, you have post-colonial feminism, which offers this crucial critique, saying you can't even talk about gender without also looking at colonialism and race. Remember that Zimbabwe example? Understanding these different angles is absolutely key. All right, let's shift from the theories to one of the most critical applications there is, the direct connection between gender, peace, and security. We're talking about real-world life and death outcomes here. Remember this number. Write it down. 35%. UN studies show that when women are involved in peace processes, the agreements are 35% more likely to last for at least 15 years. This isn't just about being fair, it's about being effective. It makes peace stick. And if you need a powerful, real-world example of that 35% statistic, here it is. The Liberian Women's Peace Movement. These women organized and protested so effectively that they literally forced the warring parties to the negotiating table, and they were absolutely crucial in ending that country's civil war. So this brings us to the single most important policy framework you need to know in this field. It's the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda, or WPS. This is the international community's big attempt to formalize women's roles in global security. The WPS agenda, which came out of UN Security Council Resolution 1325, is built on 4 pillars. You have to know these for your exam: participation, protection, prevention, and relief and recovery. It's meant to be a complete framework for action. But, and this is a big but, here's the reality check. Even with this amazing framework, a lot of women on the ground feel like there's a huge gap between the policies and what actually happens. This quote just perfectly captures that frustration. Beautiful policies on paper don't always change things.
So how do we bridge that gap? Well, one really practical solution is putting gender advisors in peacekeeping missions. Their whole job is to turn WPS policy into practice. For example, back in Afghanistan in 2009, the first NATO gender advisor was welcomed so warmly by local women because they felt she was the first person from the mission who was actually there for them. It's a huge shift from seeing women as just victims to empowering them as agents for peace.
We've covered a ton of ground here, from core theories to on-the-ground practice. Before we do a final quick-fire recap, just a heads up, if you really want to lock all this in, you can find the full summary and some practice tests over at gradeguru.nl. It is seriously the best way to get ready.
Okay, let's boil it all down. Key takeaways. Gender-neutral policies, they're usually not neutral at all. Globalization, it's a mixed bag of opportunities and challenges. And that magic number, women's participation makes peace 35% more durable, guided by those 4 WPS pillars. But knowing all this leaves us with one final, critical question to think about. If the evidence is so clear and the policies are there, what's really stopping this from being the standard everywhere? That's the question that takes you from just understanding the problem to actually figuring out the solution.